Hello and welcome to this MSP Voice webinar series. This is very excited today to be joined by GMS Live expert. I've got a couple of great presenters, Danny Obaseki as well as Randy Gould. They're going to be presenting from GMS Live. In terms of this webinar, again, it's being recorded. It'll be up on YouTube later. It's brought to you by MSP Voice and our sponsor, MSP 360. So if you have any questions, mspvoice.com, and please check our sponsor, msp360.com as well. So with that, Randy, Danny, go ahead and let's take it away.
Okay, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Gould. I am the Director of Business Development here at GMS Live Expert. And Danny Obaseki, as you know, is with me. I think I actually need to make an adjustment in my screen. I know I was in presentation mode, folks. Hopefully I still am. Let me just make sure that everything is working properly. It was, yeah, okay, everything is still good? Okay, yes. There we go. Excellent, my mouse wasn't working there for a second. Okay, so as mentioned, my name is Randy Gould, Director of Business Development. Danny Obaseki, my VP of Sales, is with me today as well. Danny, take a bow.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here and looking forward to a pretty informative presentation.
Awesome. Folks, we are here to present our company, GMS Live Expert. We will go through a little bit of the history about our company, who and what we do, and show you that you can succeed using an outsourced business model for help desk and NOC related services. We should mention you can put any questions in the QA. We'll be happy to answer them. I will prompt Doug during the presentation to make sure that we answer the questions as they come in. Doug has also been very informative in letting us know that if he's got a question, he'll pop in as well. So, and I always say the only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. So please feel free to ask anything, and we'll answer them for you. We'll put up some information at the end of the presentation as well. If you want to contact us regarding this discussion, we can certainly talk about that. Okay, so without further ado, let's give you some quick background on GMS. The company is 20 years old this month, celebrating its 20th anniversary. So it's very exciting. I've actually been here for about 6 years now. And I was previously with Level Platforms back in the day. They were an RMM provider that got out by AVG Technologies. Both Danny and I were there. It just wasn't the fit that we wanted any longer, so we both had moved on. And so my 10 years, 6 years, and Danny's been here almost 4 now. From a 20-year-old perspective, we do 24/7 help desk. We do live NOC and services, as well as, if you want to get a hold of us, we can do chat, and we have PSA and RMM integration. The team is 100% North American. We don't outsource to any other countries, regardless if it's help desk or NOC related services. About 125 plus employees. And when I first started the company, it was close to 50. So we've done very, very well and had some great expansion over the years. Last year alone, in 2018, we handled about 500,000 tickets. And that's close to 94% resolution rate. We're very proud of that number. I will tell you, the resolution is always based on proper documentation. The better your documentation is, the better we're going to be. And I always tell new prospective partners, look, you can't expect perfection, because if I don't have the information, sure, we're going to do the best we can with what we've got, and we'll do a lot of case-based reasoning, we'll Google search, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for good documentation. What I want to cover today is what's life like for a GMS partner. A lot of questions get asked prior to, hooking up with an outsourced help desk model. Am I going to lose touch with my customers? How about my profitability? Am I going to be underwater on this? What does a relationship with GMS look like? And there's all kinds of different questions that this is just a very small sample, but I can answer some of these questions for you because I think they're very important. Number one, am I going to lose touch with my customers? I actually believe, and I've done this for enough years to understand this, that you actually have more control over your customers when you have an outsourced model. And that might sound a little oxymoronic, but think about it this way. If you're busy working under the desk and you don't have time to do the touch points with the business owner because you're constantly putting out fires trying to attack tickets, get resolutions, down, hit your MTTRs, be able to hit an SLA for your customer, you don't have time to actually sit down with your customer, the actual person who's paying the bill, the business owner, the thought leader in that company, to actually try and strategize your next quarter or your next half You can't do that because you're busy putting out fires. This way, having an outsourced model allows you to actually free up your time to do these things. When it comes to profitability, help desks should always be revenue positive. It should never be revenue negative, and at its absolute worst, neutral. But I always say, you know, you could put some profitability about 50 to 70% on our help desk and still make money for your company. And a partnership is very involved with GMS. We do not, in any way, shape, or form, take a partnership lightly. It's not lobbing the ball over the fence, and hopefully, you know, something comes of it. There's a lot of integration that we do together, and you know, for a partnership to work properly, you have to have communication and you have to have, you know, consistent meetings, and we absolutely have that with our partner base. That's the one thing that sets us apart from our competition. Then there's valuing your time. You know, as a business owner, okay, there's critical decision points. You're right, you got to wear so many hats, because sometimes if you're a small business owner, you're the marketing guy, you're the finance guy, you're the technologist. So there's so many things that you have to do, and your focus, you know, you never really feel like you're doing enough, and you get burnt out. That happens to the best of us. As much as control as you put in, you get tired. You know, you got resources that are doing lower value work. And what I mean by that, and I just had this conversation ironically this morning with a new partner who just signed with us. And he was saying, you look, I'm level 3, man. I don't want to be sitting here doing level 1 work. I'm being paid to do level 3 work. I don't want to answer a question, how do I turn my font from red to green? Not that I disrespect, you know, what a level 1 person does, but that's the reality. So you're paying a resource to actually, you know, do lower work than they should be being paid for. So what does that turn around? What happens? A couple months later, they leave. They don't feel challenged. And truth be told, 80% of your workload can be automated. You can automate NOC, you can automate help desk, you can automate, or you can really, you know, focus on the core of the business. So there's lots of things that you can do to, you know, make your time more valuable. And keeping high performers, you know, how about your training budget? Do you have enough money in there to keep your staff happy? You know, are they being challenged? They want to take a course or two, but well, maybe you don't have the money for those courses. You know, what's the loyalty culture? What's going on in your business? Do people, you know, are they engaged? Do they feel like, yeah, this is great. I think I can grow with the company. You know, or are they sitting grinding out tickets and, you know, not really happy with what they're doing? You know, are they working evenings, weekends when they really don't want to, or they feel like I have to carry an on-call phone or pager, something of that nature to be in touch with my customers that are having issues? And people have issues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it doesn't matter. Look at the time zones, Eastern, Central, West. You know, look, we have partners in Europe. So some of those partners are 6 to 8 hours ahead of us. So we have to be available 24/7. And then, you know, if the technician feels that there's a lack of growth, as I mentioned previously, they're going to look elsewhere. They just don't feel challenged. So really what you need to do is try to keep high performers. But the reality of trying to keep a high performer is you got to understand that as a business owner, nobody's going to care about your business as much as you do. You know, do you have a career path for them? You know, I call it succession planning. You know, high performers, they strive on learning new things and give them challenges and server rebuilds and all those really great things that they want to do. You know, feel like they're empowered to do the work that you are hiring them to do. Not, hey, I've given you a level 3 position, but really you're only doing level 1 stuff because that's all we don't have enough business for you. You want to keep them engaged, and they want to know what's in it for them. Is there going to be a future? I will tell you, from a perspective of tenure in the industry for help desk, the average tenure of an agent in this business is about 18 months. The average tenure of a GMS frontline mentor, because that's what we call our staff, we call them mentors. It goes back to our roots as a company doing e-learning when our CEO Wayne Goldston started the company 20 years ago. It was e-learning, so we call them mentors. Well, the average mentor is on staff on our help desk for about 7.5 years on average. And the reason that we have that is because we as a company truly believe if you invest into the future of your staff, you'll keep them engaged. So our CEO requires his mentors to take 2 courses per annum to upgrade their skills. He pays for those courses, regardless if they pass or fail. But once they pass, they get a bonus for passing and a raise in salary. So now we're talking 2 bonuses and 2 raises a year. And then he says, listen, you go take more courses, give us the bill, we'll pay for that too. So there is as much education as they could possibly absorb, we cover, and that's how we keep them engaged. When it comes to building versus buying it, Okay, do you build your help desk? Do you buy your help desk? Well, you know, that's a tough decision, and there's always a tipping point. But if you're buying it, we can ride the peaks and valleys of your growth. So, you know, maybe it's not as busy and you've got people sitting around in your help desk. Well, with ours, because we have such an influx of customers, and which we're all managed service providers, we're constantly busy. And our mentors can, on average, do 2.5 tickets an hour. We've got it down to a science. You know, you can become immune to weekly, daily, and hourly spikes because we're there, we're covering it. So you might have, you know, 5 hours where you don't get a phone call, but we're certainly taking phone calls on our end. So it's economies of scale. And you can capitalize on your scary as a resource. We call them the naggy Nelly, the person who's constantly phoning in or opening up a ticket for things that, well, maybe they could take care of themselves, but generally they don't. They just want to pick up the phone. It's just a lot easier. They want to go, you know, on a live chat. It's just, you know, something that simplifies their life. Well, maybe that's costing you money because it's tying up your resources. You know, focus your team on actually making money, man. Focus them in on going out there and doing those server rebuilds. Or hey, listen, we're prospecting you, customer. We're going to do a network assessment. We're going to roll out all that information. We're going to present this in a nice package to the prospective client. Show them the value. And at the end of the day, you know, keep your team focused on what they really want to be doing, because better retention is going to equal growth for you. We're going to get to a calculator in a second. I'm going to let Danny talk for a couple minutes, but there's a calculator which is online. You can go to our website at gmslivexpert.com/calculator, and Danny's going to roll through that. But before we do, Doug, I'm going to reach out to you for a second. Do you have any questions or any questions in the QA panels?
Excuse me, nothing in the QA, but I'm very impressed in terms of your retention rate on your, I'm sorry, what you called them, your
mentors.
Mentors, yes, sorry. That escaped me there for a moment, but yeah, 7 years, that's great, because I've, you know, working for companies that have, you know, their own help desk and understanding how long staff stay there, that's an amazing number.
You know what's funny? About a year ago, we had a mentor leave, and there was his reason for leaving was simply put. He said, "I have loved every ounce of what I've done." He said, "But I've been sitting behind a computer monitor for 8 years, and I want to get out in front of people." So he left. Great guy, you know. And I looked at the email. And I went, "Man, there's, you know, we talk about it, and here's a guy 8 years later." So, and just because he didn't want to be behind a computer any longer, and how can you blame him? But yeah, it's honestly, Doug, it's amazing. Okay, well, if there's no questions on the floor, I'm going to give this over to Danny to talk about what goes into building and buying it with our calculator. Danny, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir, and thanks for the handoff. So let's look at what goes into building a help desk and NOC team. To start off, let's see what, and here's what actually goes into building your own help desk team. I'll start off by reviewing help desk staffing costs. First of all, what you'll need is to figure out how many techs are required to cater to your clients' help desk needs in a pretty timely fashion. Industry average says that you need roughly around 6 full-time techs to support for 24/7 support, and 3 if you're just offering business hour support. So plug those numbers in. Next up is the annual salary per technician. This will vary based on their respective backgrounds. For example, level 1 will typically have a lower salary than a level 2 tech, for example. Populate this portion of the form. Are you offering performance-based bonuses? We suggest no more than 2% of their annual salary. Do you provide insurance? That'll go in as part of the costs. Employment taxes. This will vary from state to state, but should definitely be part of the calculation. Annual IT spend per employee, such as training, hardware, software costs, and the list goes on. And then finally, overhead per tech, such as mileage for on-site support, office space rent, utilities. So when these factors have been populated, our calculator will show you the total annual and true costs from a labor standpoint per technician. Next up is calculating the capacity planning. Technical labor capacity takes into consideration a number of variables in order to show you what your annual productive hours will be, namely what your annual working days will be. We've seen that it's around 260 on average. How many sick days will be taken annually per tech? Typically around 5. Vacations day per year. We're, as Randy mentioned, we're a Canadian-based company, so in Canada, 2 weeks of holidays is mandatory. Days off for training, hours worked daily, typically 6 to 7 hours, so like 1 hour for lunch and a few breaks here and there for coffee. And then finally, daily productivity calculated in percentage per tech. We assume 75 to 80%. With all these data points populated into the calculator, your annual expected productive hours will be calculated. Now, let's look at how turnover can stall growth. In order to grow, there are certain investments that need to be made with regards to your technical staff. Investments in training and managing your technicians are an absolute must in order to meet or exceed the quality of service that you've promised to deliver on. To calculate this, you'll need to establish what your annual training cost per tech is, the weeks required to train a new technician, for example. Typically 2 to 3 months is sufficient amount of training guidance a new tech will require before they're productive, before they can go on the floor, get on their desk and start remediating issues. Also assume that you're going to lose, unfortunately, 1 tech per year. Sometimes they find better opportunities, they follow a different career path, they go off and work within an internal IT department within enterprise organizations, and the list goes on. Again, unfortunately, these things happen, so it has to be factored into the equation. New technician technology setup, weekly supervisory hours per tech, and then finally the annual supervisory costs, which relates to the number you entered in the hourly rate field. With all these fields populated, you'll now get a better understanding of your training, management, and turnover costs. Now let's look at some of the must-haves from a help desk and NOC standpoint. Flexibility and being able to adapt to unforeseen circumstances is key in delivering consistent support. At GMS, for example, and Randy sort of alluded to this earlier, we overstaff our MSP partner accounts by up to 25% to be able to compensate for unexpected bulges in call volumes or activity. We recommend that you do the same. It is important that you have that available bandwidth when stuff hits the fan at one customer site or multiple customer sites for that matter, without your other customers suffering the consequences. Have a contingency plan for time off coverage. Your techs take vacations, have sick days. How are you going to cope? Have a plan in place that is attractive for folks that take after hours and weekend shifts, for example. Certain clients within the healthcare vertical, for example, require timely support during off hours. So it's important that you have a process that incentivizes folks that cover those shifts. With regards to the next point, creating a culture that celebrates documentation is key to delivering consistent support. This is an absolute must-have. And there are great applications out there such as IT Glue, IT Boost, which integrates with all major PSAs and RMMs out there. Having the right type of tickets go to the right technician is a science that'll need to be mastered. This will result in the reduction of the average handle time per ticket or rapid remediation, which ensures great user experience. Having technicians consult or escalate an incident to another tech often leads to end user frustration. So another must-have is actually conducting random audits of phone calls and live chat sessions to keep your techs on their feet. We do that here at GMS, and implementing such management controls is critical. Now let's look at some management skills that's required to run a successful help desk and NOC program, if you will. Being adept at configuring and maintaining your RMM and PSA respectively is vital. Most RMM and PSA vendors have universities and thorough training programs that you should definitely take advantage of. It's critical to have processes in place to continually and continuously train your technicians on your technology stack, which obviously rapidly evolves. The vendors of these solutions are constantly investing in new features and functionalities, and your team will need to be on top of that, as the result will typically ensure end user satisfaction. It's one thing. It's one thing to think that you're providing quality service. It's another to actually hear that from your customers. Part of running a successful help desk and NOC involves soliciting feedback from your end users via surveys. And finally, having your techs see the opportunity to grow within your organization will help mitigate high turnover. Now, I'll pass it off to Randy and let him talk about how outsourcing isn't perfect every time.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. Okay, so, and that's true. It's not perfect, okay? And we understand that. And the first thing that we always tell our new partners is, look, it's going to be a bit bumpy in the first couple months of any partnership that we have. And the reason that it is because it's like a marriage, right? We're just getting to know each other for the first time. There's going to be idiosyncrasies about your clients that we don't know. You might, as an MSP, you might have full information on them, but we don't. So it is a bit bumpy. And I always challenge any MSP and I say, look, you tell me the first client you took on that was perfect right out of the gate. And folks understand that. But we're pretty darn close at getting it as good as we can. And then usually 3 months in, we call it like the burn-in period. Everything's pretty good. It's pretty smooth. We're pretty proud of that too. There's no substitute for great documentation. I said that off the top. You know, we could do the best we can with nothing. And yeah, if it's the Microsoft stack, we're sure we're good. But if I need to map a printer and I don't have the topology of the network, it's going to be kind of tough for us to do our job. So we do depend on the MSP to give us as much information as possible. Now, the beauty is we use IT Glue for our documentation. Well, there's two ways of looking at it. The MSP keeps IT Glue, has to have it if they would like to work with us. And therefore, we connect to their IT Glue through a portal called Glue Connect, which allows us to have real-time documentation at our fingertips. So if we're actually live on a call or doing a live chat, we can actually get into your IT Glue through Glue Connect, make any specific changes real-time, if it's a password change, if it's configuration, and it's automatically reflected in your documentation. So huge, huge benefit. And we can talk about that offline as well. And we have a special deal cooked up with IT Glue, so we can make it extremely affordable for you. And it can be a long-term model for everyone. It really can. At the end of the day, if you think that this is something you want to take part in, because why keep those burden costs per employee in your own backyard? You know, basically pay the bill at the end of the month and know that we're going to look after you. And you are buying in a complete team, The 24/7 help desk is North American based with very aggressive SLAs, sub 60-second answer time and instant on the chat, and be realistic, 8 to 10 seconds real time on the chat. That's where we're trending, and we're at about 62.35 seconds. Speed of answer overall over the last 6 months on the SLA. You want us to cover it after hours, evenings, weekends, we can do it. You want us 24/7, 365, no problem. Our pricing model is dictated on the volume of tickets that you give us across your customer base and named users. You know, we cover all your apps and devices, so I don't tie a user to a device. I believe that the device is a subset of the user. So you might have a person who's working in the office and they're on their desktop and they save a file to their flash drive and go home and have dinner, homework with the children, and then 10 o'clock at night jump back on their MacBook and throw that flash drive in and boom, something's not working. Well, we'll help that person, not because of the devices there. Bi-directional Autotask integration, that's what we're using. And we have connectors that work with Autotask, ConnectWise, Zendesk, BMS, which is Kaseya's ticketing system. So we have that bi-directional really what we're doing is we're using the APIs between the ticketing systems to move like unique ticket numbers, time entries, issue, sub-issue statuses, notes, pop-ups, all float between the systems, sub 15 seconds. Moves really quickly. As mentioned, IT Glue. And when we talk about number 6, mentor pods, that's our way of saying that we give you a primary team of folks to work with. Now, we will never say that we're going to give you a dedicated team, unless, of course, you pay specifically for something like that. But dedicated means they only work for you. Or primary, we give you 7 to 10 frontline mentors, which so your end users get very comfortable with talking to the same folks over and over again. If you're a larger MSP and require more folks, of course, we'll do that. So we scale it to the size of your MSP. And at the end of the day, we don't really surprise you with any rate increases. Our goal is actually to lower your cost over time, and we reward our MSPs with, doing a good job. So if we don't drive as many tickets, if we don't do as much volume, we don't have to charge you as much. We prefer to, have you pay less, which when was the last time you actually heard that? Doug, we're going to drop back over to you for a second.
Yeah.
You got any questions for us?
I got a question here. So you talked about PSA. What about RMMs? So what do you have any integration with RMMs, or how do you connect to those?
Sure. We are completely 100% RMM agnostic. So you give us administrative access to the RMM dashboard of your choice, and we will utilize that from Kaseya to ConnectWise or LapDeck or ConnectWise Automate, I guess it is nowadays, SolarWinds, Ninja, whatever RMM you're using, just give us admin access.
Okay.
We'll utilize that. And if there happens to not be an agent on the device because it's just not a recognized device, that's okay. We can use LogMeIn, TeamViewer, Screen Connect. We have our own set of tools.
Okay. Great.
Cool. Excellent. All right, so let's talk about our 24/7 customizable NOC. You know, we do, of course, in North American only, because that's the way we've always done it. We have network monitoring, so we do servers, workstations, network devices. You know, and the way we basically do it is, you know, you give us the devices that you, because Help Desk is different. Help Desk is user-based. NOC is primarily device-based. You tell us what servers you want us to monitor, you know, if you want us to monitor workstations, do patching, scripts, updates, full remediation, trend analysis. We do all of that for you. And again, you can pick and choose it however you'd like. So we're very good at that. And we actually use our own monitoring software. So what we do to remain vendor agnostic is we say, okay, we'll use our own monitoring tool, which has intelligence back from the network that a lot of the RMMs don't have, because RMMs are, you know, they'll come in different shapes and sizes. So one RMM might be really good at automation, one might be good at you know, monitoring, but they're not all created equal. So for us to be consistent, we have a monitoring tool that kicks back a whole bunch of information. So we can do server event log, app log monitoring, server service monitoring, MPLS, like deep in MPLS. So we're very good at it. And therefore, those alarms get kicked back to us. We go to verify that they're legitimate and use your RMM to go back in and remediate the issue. And we have that full bidirectional compatibility with your PSA. So again, you know, AutoTask, ConnectWise, Zendesk, BMS. So whichever you have, we can certainly work with you. It's not a problem. Really, it's controlling your bottom line, folks. It's controlling your bottom line. And it's saying, okay, from a service desk, you know, 24/7, 365, or however you choose to utilize us, you know, deploy us where you need us and refocus your team on actually doing what they're supposed to be doing and not worrying about a team of folks and, oh, you know, this person got sick today, so now we're down a man, and okay, now our volume is going to increase, and how am I going to hit an SLA for my customer? You don't have to worry about that stuff. We got it covered. We're there for you. You know, we do after hours support if you want to. We just know your utilization will be lower, so your cost per user becomes lower because we're doing less volume for you. You know, we've got all kinds of different ways of scaling it for you. If you're looking at our enterprise NOC, we've got all of that for you as well. Servers, device monitoring, network monitoring, all the things that we just spoke about. And then if you want to go a la carte and just say, look, GMS, I just want you to do my patching. I just want you to look after my workstations. If you want to do projects, you know, I will tell you, you have to be a partner of ours. We can't just do ad hoc projects if you're not a partner. So you do have to have a partnership with us. But look, maybe you have an Office 365 migration you want us to do, or adding new users, and you don't want to do that during the day, and we can accommodate that for you overnight. We can obviously do all the pricing for you based off of all of that information. So that's all quoted ad hoc as well, but that's part of the partnership. Danny, I'll let you talk about our certifications. Give you some time.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. So and I think you alluded to this earlier, Randy, we have a program here where once we hire a technician, we call them mentors. They are mandated to take a couple certification courses per annum. We pay for it, and then we give them a couple $100 visa as a bonus when they pass. We look for certification gaps and try to fill those gaps. As a result, our techs carry on average 13 certs, CompTIA Plus, MCSC, CCNA, Office 365, and the list goes on. With our most senior tech carrying and holding, I don't know when he has had time to do this, but over 80 certifications. So these are sort of the background skill sets we come to you with. And when we assign technicians, mentors to each MSP accounts, we look through your IT glue, looking for keywords and filtering through your IT glue docs and looking for key applications. And then we sort of play a matching game. We assign folks with the appropriate set of background from a certification standpoint to your account. So that's basically how our program works from a certification standpoint. Want to pick this one up, Randy?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay, so this is something we take very seriously. Okay, and it is our dedicated QA team. It is led by a gentleman by the name of Jay. Jay, what his job is to do is to take a look at any issues, any quality-related issues that are sent to our team. Simple way to do it, really. Send an email, quality@globalmentoring.com. Here's a true metric, and this is real, we're very proud of this. For every 10,000 tickets created in GMS's system, okay, there's about 40 quality incidents per 10,000. You're looking at a 0.04% quality score. Flip it upside down, we're at 99.6. Pretty good. Three things will happen, folks. It's either GMS who screwed up, and we own it. We own the relationship. We fall on our sword and we fix the problem. Now, the mentor that caused the issue, if that was the case, is, it's treated as a training exercise, a learning exercise, however you want to phrase it, and then they get monitored between 4 to 6 weeks to make sure that the error doesn't happen again. If it does, then there's disciplinary action on our end. There's the other scenario, which is the MSP, who we asked information for and didn't give us what we needed, and we've gone back and forth multiple times, still didn't get what we needed, so the interaction wasn't as good as it could have been because we couldn't solve the person's problem. And that happens. And then there's what I call the wild card, and that is the end user who said something happened, but it didn't happen the way they said that it did. And here's where we're very good about that. We record every single phone conversation in and out of our system, and then we archive those calls for 30 days. Then we also have recording software, so when our mentors log in, they have actually, we have them log into a VDI, so we track every mouse click, website, keystroke that they make. We can see the entire interaction. So you have all of that to be able to fall back on. So we take it very seriously. And our whole mission is to really protect GMS and our customers' reputations and standards. That's what we're here for. So you have a lot of different angles to get in on. We also randomly look at tickets, proactive ticket handling for, best practices, compliance. We want to make sure we're doing it right. And then we have customers who perform customer sat surveys to see how we're doing. And it's a really good measure of retention and satisfaction for the help desk. And that little bullet at the bottom here, highlighted in blue, GMS guarantee. Our goal is not to lock in. If we can't stand behind our quality service, we don't need to keep you locked into a partnership you don't want to be part of. Pure and simple. We don't lock you into a long-term contract. We're not like some of those companies will say 2- and 3-year contracts or else. It's nope, we don't do that. Ours is a 13-month contract. Month 1 is strictly onboarding, and the remainder of the balance is your monthly fee. And if we make any changes organically up or down in the partner base, yeah, it's a simple change order that we do, and there's no charges to do any of that. Our partners love us. Joe Consolmagno over at Integra One, he's my partner. I signed him 3 years ago. He came to us from one of our competitors. Truth be told, folks, I'm not going to read this slide. You can read it on your own, okay? But I will tell you, Joe came to me and he said, Randy, I've got a customer and my current help desk is it's been a mess and they're threatening to leave us. So we had some discussions and negotiations, and he basically, the owner of the company, said, no, we're going to stick with our current provider. We're going to give him one more chance. And he came to me and said, look, I'm really sorry. I thought we had a deal together. He said, but I promise you, the minute something happens, I'm coming back. So I'll be on that phone with you. Folks, I'm not joking when I tell you this is a God's honest truth. Not even a week and a half later, my phone rings. It was Joe. Randy, how fast can you get us up and running on GMS? We did the integrations. We had them up and running in sub 3 weeks, which was incredibly fast, and over 400 end users. He's been with me for almost 4 years now, folks. So 3.5, 4 years. So what does that tell you? It tells you that we have very, very good stickiness with our customers. And why? Because we do a very good job. We're very good at this. So, and Joe knows it. So our partners really appreciate what we do. And I have partners, when I started 6 years ago, they've been here 5.5. We keep our partners, we have sub 1% churn annually, okay? So how does all this work? What's our integration look like? How is this all put together? Well, with GMS, you're gonna get 24/7, 365 North American support. Doesn't matter, you use me when you wanna use me. Okay, we've got it through phone, we've got it through live chat. Our live chat is a proprietary chat system that was developed 20 years ago, been tweaked, of course, over the 20 years, but it's a dual authentication process. So what happens is, if you you jump on the chat, you put your email address in there, it'll kick you out a code to your email, pop it back in the chat panel. Guess what? We're talking with you. We want to make sure that you are who you say you are, because I don't want to help one of your customers that might not be your customer anymore. So a lot of work that goes into that. We have live chat, and we've also got email support, and we've got bidirectionality in the ticketing systems with our PSAs, working and talking together, IT glue, and everything is put forth in a report for you. You can get those reports bi-weekly, monthly, and the whole thing is wrapped around having a service manager, dedicated partner manager, hey, you're listening to them. As the director of business development, I work with you on the sales side of it. Once you sign up with GMS, you have me to do all this partner development. But we also give you an account manager that is with you, that does all your meetings from a technical standpoint. Danny and myself get to work with you from a business development standpoint. What's nice about this is you have multiple single points of contact into GMS. And folks, and I'm going to say this with the utmost respect to the other companies out there, I find it hard pressed to say the person that you're dealing with, who you bought our RMM tool from 3 years ago, is still sitting in that chair. Well, Danny's here 4 and I'm here 6. So we are, and our frontline mentors, as we mentioned, have the tenure that they do, and our account management team have come from the front line. So hopefully that kind of wraps a nice little picture around for you. When we talk about the overflow, or overview rather, phone call comes in, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in the back end. We know who's calling us. We have a caller ID. We set up a DID for you. And so we know exactly who's calling in, and a whole bunch of stuff's popping in the background on our mentor screens. So we know if Sally Payroll phones up from ABC Medical, we've got her information. We know that she's actually there. And after that, we're able to verify her information and her tickets and her ticket history. There's a whole bunch of great stuff that pops in the background. Have the communications between the PSAs and reporting. Got a happy customer at the end of the day, and you can verify all of that with all the reporting that we give you. Danny, I'm going to let you talk to this tool, this page about the customer portal.
Absolutely. So what we've done is, and we spend about a year on this, is developed a partner portal that allows for each of our MSP partners to pop in there and generate some metrics on an ad hoc basis. So you can go in there, you can look at telephone statistics, live chat stats that you can then hopefully monetize and leverage as we move on. We answer 80% of our phone calls in under 90 seconds. We answer 80% of our live chats in under 30 seconds. So this was created to, and we do provide you reports on a weekly and monthly basis from a ticket history standpoint, average handle time standpoint, and first touch remediation standpoint. But within this portal, you can now pop in there at any point and grab these reports and leverage as you will.
Awesome. Okay, folks. You want to get in touch with us? Here's how you do it. Send an email, sales@globalmentoring.com. If you want to give us a call directly, if you're in the US, 443-960-8989. Here in the Great White North, by the way, it's a beautiful day here in Toronto, just so you all know, 905-286-3801. That's 905-286-3801. We will be happy to chat with you regarding your MSP business, anything that you'd like to talk about with regards to how we do what we do, how we help our partners build out their businesses, how they can rely on us and leverage us for that 24/7 support. Hey, listen, you want to bounce some questions off us? We're super happy to do it. Danny and I both know that this is not something that we take lightly. And it takes quite a long time to sometimes put a deal together if there's a deal to be had. So we don't ever want you to feel that there's pressure. And we're very good about making sure that this has to be the right fit. I will tell you from personal experience, there's a lot of blind faith that goes into putting a help desk deal together, help desk and knock deal, because we don't have a tool you can play with and play, and test out and put through its paces. A lot of blind faith there, folks. But I can tell you, we wouldn't be in this business for over 20 years doing what we do if we didn't do a good job, because you all know being in the service business is not easy. So I want to give you our faith and trust that we will do the best job we can. So once again, sales@globalmentoring.com. In the States, 443-960-8989, and in Canada, 905-286-3801. That's how we can chat with you. And if there's any questions, we're happy to take them, and we appreciate you, taking some time out of your day to join us. And so, Doug,
yes,
over to you.
Okay, so there
We've
is
got
a question.
one last. Yeah.
What?
I was just gonna relay that to Randy. We've got one last question, which is how is the pricing?
Yeah, or there may be more questions. So if you're if you're watching and you have questions about anything come up here, we've got several minutes here. We can address all of them. But of course,
For sure.
the $1 million question is how is the pricing?
You know what, Doug? I have no idea. No, seriously. What we do is our pricing is in a standard model. We use what we call utilization. And what utilization really is how many tickets are we doing across how many end users? So we know in the industry that 40% of your named help desk users should open up a support ticket in any given month. So as an example of that, if you gave me 100 users like Mark, Jonah, Alyssa, Ron, Shayna, Leslie, Josh, Emma, you gave me 100 people, 40 of those 100 people should open up a support ticket in any given month. It actually rides between 35 and 45%. So if we were in that range, we would come in at about $24 a user. So let's do easy math, okay? Simple math. You gave me 100 users at $24 a user. I'm at $2,400 a month, and I'm going to expect a volume of about 40 tickets, give or take. Now, that's not always the case because, hey, listen, you might be, a really great MSP. You're a rock star, and your network has been hardened up properly, and your equipment's been refreshed. So maybe you're down at 20% utilization, and you can show me that. Great. I'll charge you $12 a user because you're not using me as much of the time. So now, instead of it being $2,400 a month, you're $1,200 a month. Or if you're after hours, evenings and weekends, maybe your utilization's down to 10% and you're going to give me 100 people that might call in. All right, I'll be at $6 a user. So we look at it as, tell me what your actual volume is, because we staff our help desk according to our SLA. Mm-hmm. And as Danny had mentioned, 80% of our SLA simply is 80% of our calls get answered sub 90 seconds, chat at 30 seconds. So I have to staff for that. So if I know what my volume is from you and your MSP, I can look at 15 other MSPs giving me that same volume, give you the same team. I've got my team loaded up for basically 2.5 to 3 calls. Now we've got it down to a science, but that's how we do it, and we bulk up, as Danny mentioned, by 25%. Okay. So. And the other thing too, Doug, is when it comes to utilization, it's fluid. So maybe you start out at 40%, but the realized utilization over the next couple months is closer to 30%. Sure, then we'll knock the bill down to what $18 a user, because that's what 30% is equivalent to. So that's why I say it's not a hard number. It's the better the MSP is and the less volume we do, the less we have to charge you.
Okay, no, I mean, that's great to know. I was going to follow up question, ask if, you locked me in at 40%, but I'm actually closer to 25, 30%, will it go down on a monthly, from a month to month? And it sounds like it will, based on history.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. I say it this way too. A month isn't a trend, but 2 and 3, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and listen, we have customers too, or our partners that say, look, I look after schools. So, September to April are really busy, and, May to August, it's kind of quiet. Okay, so but there's still, people in school. We'll drop that utilization down because we know they're not going to be doing that consumption. So.
Okay. And then are there any onboarding costs?
So yes, our onboarding fee generally, the first 5, it comes in at $795. And that's a one-time fee to get you onboarded. So we basically order and set up a local DID for you, so there's no long distance charges. We do the configurations of the PSAs together, so we make sure the tickets are moving round trip, all the workflow rules are set up properly. We do all of that testing. We go through the IT glue forms to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and all the information and SOPs, SOWs are all up to date, proper. And then we set up the live chats for you. So there's a lot of heavy lifting that we do. We don't charge for services in those first 45 days. So it's like you're not paying for help desk services because we're still setting you up.
Yeah.
But, truth is, and if you give us more than, and I'm going to say this, and put it out there. If the first 5 sites are $795, if you're going to give me 10 sites, we boost it up to about $1,250. And then, the maximum you would ever pay is $2,500 but that's if you're giving me 30 plus sites. We always say, and I'll say to my partners, my prospective partners, it's a lot easier to onboard one customer with 100 users than 100 customers with 1 user. The amount of work I have to do, right, is because it doesn't matter if that one customer has 1 user. I've got to go through all his documentation and information, whereas I got 100 people, but the documentation and information is still going to be the same for that same 100 people.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's kind of like and when you say site, that would be me as an MSP, if I have 10 customers, that
Correct.
Would be 10 sites.
10 sites.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
Okay. Great. I don't have any other questions. If anybody out there listening, if you have some additional questions, definitely please let us know. Be more than happy to answer them for you.
Absolutely.
And you guys, and so, like I said, I know I've seen you guys at ASCII and some other places. So I know you guys go out, you're out there at the shows and those types of things as well. So if
That's right.
anybody wants to talk to you live in person, or someone from GMS live in person, they can definitely do that. I have a question, and
Sure.
that is, what does GMS stand for?
Global mentoring. Here, you know what? Here, the origin of it's actually kind of funny because we have a couple minutes. It's called Global Mentoring Solutions, because that's where the mentoring side of it came from, was e-learning. But the origin of the name, funny enough, and this is a true story, you're gonna laugh. Our CEO, his name is Wayne Goldstein. Wayne used to work for IBM, and he had sold, the software that he had designed to IBM, and decided a year later that he wanted to start his own company again. He was sitting around a campfire about 20 years ago, drinking Grand Marnier with one of his friends. And right, so the GMA goes, so what can we Grand Marnier, G Global, and that's really kind of put it all together. So the origin really came from drinking some Grand Marnier around a campfire. That's the truth. That's a true story.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah. Wayne's an innovator. He's a brilliant man and a great guy to work for. He really is a classy act. He's just, he puts his faith and trust in his employees to do a good job, and they reward him with exceptional work.
Great. Well, Randy, Danny, that's I don't have any other questions coming in. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time. And again, if you're still out there, if you missed any part of it, this will be up on YouTube probably within the next week. There'll be a blog post, so keep an eye on mspvoice.com, and we'll get it up there for you.
We appreciate it, Doug. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Well, have a great week, everyone.
You too, sir. Bye now.
Thank you.